They called it just cotton, white gold, they said, the fabric of trade, the pride of the West. But for us, it was more than cotton. It was our land, our sweat, our sovereignty. For decades, our fields fed their factories, our labor built their wealth, while our farmers, the heartbeat of Africa, remained prisoners of prices set in faraway cities. They took our resources, named them theirs, and sold them back to us with our own blood woven in. But today, that story is changing. Burkina Faso, a nation the West once ignored, now stands at the center of a storm worth $8 billion. A storm not of bullets, but of economics, a rebellion born in the soil, not the palace. The West fears not our guns, but our awakening. Because when Africa begins to trade on her own terms, when our cotton, our gold, our oil stop flowing through their gates, their empires tremble. So they call it rebellion, we call it freedom. A new chapter begins not with warships, but with farmers reclaiming the right to sell their own harvest. And make no mistake, this time Africa will not bow. They told us it was progress, that trading our cotton through their companies under their prices was the way to develop. But brothers and sisters, how can a man develop when the fruit of his land does not feed his own child? For generations, our fields turned white under the sun, not with snow, but with cotton. Our mothers picked it. Our fathers sold it, and yet, at the end of every harvest, the profit disappeared across the sea. The farmer, the true creator of wealth, remained with nothing but calloused hands and promises that never came true. They came with contracts written in languages we did not speak. They smiled as they took the bales away, as if doing us a favor. But behind those smiles was the same system that chained our ancestors. Only the chains had changed, from iron to economics, from whips to debt. I remember walking through the villages, seeing old farmers look at their land with quiet anger. They knew they were rich, rich in soil, in water, in work. But they were made to believe they were poor because the world measured wealth not by labor, but by who controlled the market. And the market was never ours, so we decided enough. If our cotton grows from our soil, it must serve our people. If our hands create the wealth, our children must see its light. No more middlemen taking the bread from our mouths. No more prices decided in Paris or London. No more waiting for permission to exist. This rebellion did not start with weapons. It started with courage, the courage to say no. No to exploitation disguised as partnership. No to systems built to keep us begging. We will trade differently. We will produce differently, and we will dream differently, because when a nation dares to reclaim its economy, it reclaims its soul. And that, my brothers and sisters, is what they fear the most, not our cotton, not our fields, but our awakening. This is not just about money, it is about dignity, and from this soil that dignity will rise again like the dawn over a free Africa. They called it aid. They called it support, but tell me, what kind of support keeps a man kneeling? What kind of help demands your obedience before it gives you bread? For too long, Africa has been treated like a child, told when to speak, when to eat, when to fight, and when to sleep. They disguise their control in the language of generosity, loans, investments, development partnerships, all wrapped in the flag of compassion. But inside that wrapping lies a hidden chain, cold and heavy. I have seen those meetings in shining halls, where our leaders smile and sign papers they did not write. They shake hands under the flash of cameras, while their people sweat under the sun. They trade the future of their children for short-term applause. And the world calls it diplomacy, but we are not blind anymore. We have read the fine print written in invisible ink. We know the trap disguised as opportunity, and we say no more. When we refused their help, they called us rebels. When we asked for fairness, they called us dangerous. When we stood for our sovereignty, they called us dictators. But brothers and sisters, I ask you, who is truly dangerous? The man who defends his land, or the one who steals it with a smile? We do not seek war, we seek respect. We seek the right to choose our own destiny without fear of sanctions or sabotage. They fear our independence because it reveals their weakness. They fear our unity because it ends their control. Every dollar they send has a string attached. Every promise they make hides a condition, and every word they speak echoes the same truth. They need a weak Africa more than we need their approval. So we rise not with hatred, but with clarity, not to isolate ourselves, but to reclaim what was always ours. We will build partnerships on equality, not pity. We will trade on our terms, not theirs, because a proud nation does not beg. It stands tall, even when the world tries to make it crawl. And from this fire of defiance, a new Africa is being forged, one that will never again ask permission to be free. They said Africa was poor, but they never told us why. They said we had no future, but they never told us who stole our past. And when we began to ask, they silenced us with loans, distractions, and wars we did not start. My people, poverty is not the absence of wealth, it is the result of theft. They took our cotton, our gold, our uranium, our oil, and in return, they gave us paper, promises, and propaganda. They made us believe we could not rise without them, but the truth burns brighter than any lie. Africa's suffering was engineered, brick by brick, by the same hands that now claim to save us. When you see a farmer in Burkina Faso bent over dry soil, remember he is not poor because he is lazy. He is poor because someone far away controls the reign of opportunity. They set the price of our cotton, our cocoa, our coffee. While we do the sweating, they do the counting. And every time we produce more, they lower the price. Because control, not fairness, is their weapon. Yet even as they rob us, they fear us. They fear the awakening that is spreading across the continent. They fear the voices of a generation that will no longer sell its soul for a grain of aid. And that fear, my brothers and sisters, is our greatest power. Because Africa is not waiting anymore. We are not begging anymore. We are building from the ashes of deception a new order, one where our resources feed our people, not their banks. We will wear our cotton, process our gold, refine our oil. We will create value with our own hands under our own flag. Let the world know our dignity is not for sale. We have nothing to prove to the West, only to our children. And when they ask what we did with our freedom, we will answer, we fought for it, we earned it, and we kept it. The age of silent submission is over. Now begins the era of African control, not through war, but through wisdom, through unity, through courage, through truth, and no empire, no matter how powerful, can silence a people who have remembered who they are. They told us that unity was a dream, that Africa was too divided, too broken, too wounded to rise together. But that lie ends here. Because when a man from the Sahel shakes hands with a brother from the Congo, when a farmer in Mali stands beside a student in Ghana, that is not weakness, that is revolution. Unity is not a slogan, it is survival. For too long, we fought each other while our enemies feasted on our divisions. They gave one nation weapons and the other debt, and watched us bleed while they took our gold. But now we are seeing clearly. We know that the borders they drew on our maps were never meant to protect us. They were meant to divide us. My people, Africa, does not need 50 voices shouting separately. We need one rhythm, one pulse, one roar. Because when lions move alone, they can be hunted. But when they move together, even the hunters run. Look at what's happening today. Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, 3 nations that once fought in silence now speak as one. Our soldiers share the same trenches, our leaders share the same dream, and our people share the same determination to build an Africa that no longer kneels. Yes, it will not be easy. Unity demands sacrifice. It demands we put our ego beneath our duty. But tell me, what is harder, standing together or living forever in chains? They will call our unity rebellion. They will say we are dangerous, that we are reckless. But remember, every act of freedom looks dangerous to those who profit from slavery. And the more they fear our togetherness, the more we must protect it. Brothers and sisters, unity is not the end, it is the beginning. The beginning of an Africa that will control its destiny, an Africa that will speak with one voice before the world, an Africa where no child will be born into debt, and no mother will bury her son for another man's profit. This is our moment. We must not let it slip away, because the world has always underestimated Africa until Africa begins to move. And once she moves, she will never stop. They tried to bury our pride under piles of foreign aid. They said, "You need us." But the truth is, they needed our silence. Because a proud Africa is their greatest fear, every dollar they lend comes with a chain, every agreement they sign carries poison ink. They call it development, but it is dependency dressed in diplomacy. They send their experts to teach us how to survive, while their corporations drain the very veins of our soil. They want Africa to stay on its knees, forever grateful for crumbs that fell from stolen tables. But we are not beggars. We are builders. Our dignity does not come from what they give, it comes from what we create. And today, I say this clearly, Africa will no longer measure its worth in foreign approval. We will not trade our sovereignty for applause, nor our future for loans wrapped in lies. When we reject their control, they call us dictators. When we question their motives, they call us dangerous. But what is dangerous? A people who want to stand tall, or a system that feeds on keeping us small. They fund chaos, then call it democracy. They build bases, then call it protection. They invade with contracts, not tanks, yet the damage is the same. Brothers and sisters, I tell you, independence is not a flag, it is a mindset. It is the courage to say no to exploitation, even when that no costs you everything. Our ancestors fought colonialism with guns. We fight neocolonialism with awareness. We fight it with unity, with production, with pride. Let the world know we will build our roads with our own engineers, our power grids with our own minds, our industries with our own sweat. We will fail, yes, but we will fail free and rise free, because no foreign hand will shape the destiny of Burkina Faso again. And when Africa stands up for herself, she does not ask for permission. She moves like thunder, not to destroy, but to remind the world the lion was never dead, only sleeping. They thought they could control our destiny by controlling our story. For decades, they told the world who we are: savages, victims, beggars. They wrote our history in their books, filmed our pain in their documentaries, and sold our suffering as entertainment. But that era is over. Africa will no longer let others speak in her voice. Because when we tell our own story, we reclaim our power. We remind the world that before the colonizers came, we had empires, wisdom, and order. We had science in our stars, mathematics in our architecture, democracy in our villages. They erased our legacy so they could justify their theft, but now our children are beginning to remember. And when a people remember who they are, they become unstoppable. My brothers and sisters, our fight is not only for land or resources, it is for truth. Because the greatest weapon the West ever used was not the gun, it was the lie that we are incapable of progress without them. The lie that freedom means following their model, but true freedom means building in our image, not theirs. Every nation that stands today stood once in the fire of doubt. They said Japan couldn't rebuild. They said Cuba couldn't resist. Now they say Africa cannot rise. Let them talk. We will answer not with words, but with results. Let our schools teach our heroes, not theirs. Let our youth read Sankara before Shakespeare, learn our philosophy before their politics, because liberation of the mind is the beginning of all revolutions. And a free mind cannot be enslaved again. We are the generation that refuses to forget. We will write our own books, shoot our own films, and build our own platforms. We will speak in Bambara, in Swahili, in Malay, in the tongue of our ancestors, because every word carries the heartbeat of our soul. So let them watch as Africa rises again, not as the world's charity case, but as its conscience, not as its shadow, but as its equal. For the story of the world cannot be told truthfully without the voice of Africa. My brothers and sisters, this fight is bigger than me. It belongs to every African heart that still beats with pride. The time for silence has ended. The time for courage has begun. Do not just watch history unfold, asterisk become asterisk the one who writes it. Share this message with those who still doubt our power. Let every village, every street, every young mind know the lion has awakened, and he will not sleep again. Subscribe to this movement, join this voice, because the world may ignore one man, but it cannot ignore a continent that speaks together. Africa is not waiting for a savior. Africa asterisk is asterisk the savior, and her roar has just begun.